Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to work on this hawthorn. This is a Welsh Hawthorn, so this one is collected from the Welsh mountains about 4 years ago. I purchased it at the Bonsai Expo show in Crawley. So I bought it there at the show 2 years ago. Just had small little shoots on there, kind of this kind of size. It was just starting to grow. Just quite fresh really, but yeah, I just bought it for the amazing thick trunk and the amazing movement in the branches and stuff. So yeah, really nice project to get stuck in with really, but because it was quite fresh, it was not really strong growing at the first few years. So I had to leave it for a bit before I could work it actually. So now this last year it's really started to grow. As you can see here, we've got almost a foot of growth on there, so it's nice and strong, and this is the right size to start wiring it really. So anything thicker than that, it's gonna be a bit tricky, so you need to get bigger wire on there and it just gets harder to do. So when the branches reach about 3 mil, that's kind of the cutoff point. 3.5 mil, that gets a little bit too thick. So so it's ideal time to put a little bit of shape to that. It's been pruned already a couple times, but yeah, nothing major really, because we just want to grow from there first, have it strong, and then we can think about the structure later on. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna clean up the dead stubs. So there's nothing feeding this here, so this is gonna be dead up to here because there's life there. Maybe we'll keep that, maybe we don't. So we'll just have a look to see later on. So we're gonna prune some of the branches off where we don't need them. So we want to get it quite simple really. We don't want too many branches on there. With a lot of branches, it'll make a nice image in the end, at the end of the video, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for learning, and we just improve over time. So we're gonna clean back quite drastically, not to 3 branches, but to a lot less. So we get the basic outlay. So we want a branch from every point really, and then we let them grow on again, and then when we prune them, we're gonna start developing the structure on it. So first we're gonna do a little branch selection, as we call it. So there's yeah, there's kind of what hawthorns do. They like to grow from one point. So as you can see here, we've got 1, 2, 3 already coming from one point. So what happens in time, it just gets swollen and it just gets thick and stuff. So if you can see here, for example, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 quite big branches coming from that point, and even in the past another 5 as well, and that just gets really lumpy and ugly. Especially hawthorns, they just got this thing, they do that. You can see there's a lump here in the back as well, so that's had multiples on it, and that just gets really ugly. So in time we have to sort it out really. So the way you prune it, so you prune it once, it just divides into 2, but what hawthorn also do is they start budding from the inside again. So as soon as the tree starts budding up in spring, you're gonna look at your tree and you rip all the inner buds off. For example, over here we've got a bud right in the middle, so we don't really want that because that just creates a new shoot, unless you want something from there, but it's right from the axis of the tree, so we don't really need anything there. So what's really important is that you just try to prune away everything. So if you leave it just a tiny little bit there, we're gonna bud again. So you have to properly clean that. So again here, we've got another one in there. So we don't need one in there, so we're gonna clean that out like so. That's another example there. You see we've got existing branch here, and then the tree just the tree just shoots out buds like that. There's even one there in the back too. So we just don't really need that. So we're gonna rip them off. There we go. So I think we're gonna use this as a front. I would quite like the idea of having these Deadwood and just kind of be incorporated in the kind of design. At first I had the other side as a front, but I think the other side will be lit a bit nicer. It's quite similar, only from this side you can see all of the trunks here, that one and that one. So I'm still gonna use that as the top. So the one comes this way, it's gonna be the top, and I will try to bend this branch as there's some dead wood in there, because there's some dead branches there. I'm gonna make a little sleeve in there, and hopefully I can bend that on a better angle like that, because it's just a little bit straight and a little bit long as well, so it just keeps on going and going. So we want to kind of bring that down again to make it a little bit compacter as well. So these ones are kind of coming from the top. I'd rather have those ones here, so I can kind of bend them down. So if we're gonna bend these ones, it's just gonna be a bit of a little bow, which I don't really fancy, so I'm gonna prune them off. That one here is quite thick and quite straight as well. I think we're just going to reduce that and then use these ones as branches, I think. Just going to choose for that one. That one comes right from the axis there. So this one has just have a better angle, so if we want to bend that one down, it's just a lot nicer instead of just going up and down, which these ones are a little bit. So I wired that last year for a demo. I was talking about Hawthorns, and they insist I put some wire on it, so I just had to do it. So this is a tree to do for a video, so not for the demonstration at the time. So which it is a good demo tree, but that wasn't the talk I was giving. So that this will just take me a good part of 3 hours to do the work to it. So anything small like this, we already got a nice one down there, so we can prune that one off. Again, we got two quite similar space together. It's another really small one going from the top. Don't need that. It's another small one down there. That's just one on this trunk there, but we're just gonna deadwood that as well, and I'm just gonna clean that out there. So now I cleaned it all out. So as you can see, it's quite a lot came off, but it's just gonna be more clearer now. So where the where everything where everything will be going, the main structure of the branches and stuff. So pretty simple, and then this one will be the top here. So it's a nice taper going from there into there. Not quite sure what we're gonna do with this end, so we're gonna bend it first and see where the branches kind of end up, what angles. Because for now this angle is not ideal, but once it's lower down it might be okay. So we're just gonna keep that for now, and then we're gonna see how it looks like when the branch is bent, hopefully. The bending here we're not gonna do with any wire, because this is really thick. So we're going to do that with a turnbuckle, normally used for tightening fences and stuff like that. But it's a really good tool for bending big branches very easily, really. So we're just gonna put a screw through here into this deadwood there, and then we're gonna put some wire around there with a little protection on the top there. Then we're gonna use copper wire because it's a lot stronger. Aluminium wire, especially under tension, is just gonna stretch and stretch, and then it can snap. So we're gonna put some 3mm copper wire on there, 2 rounds, to make it nice and strong. And then at first it's gonna be quite long, but then it's gonna be shorter and shorter, of course, over time. And because we can just keep turning it slowly, we can bend it controllably, really. And this also works really well with pines and junipers over time. So every time, every week, every other week, you just give it a couple turns till it just starts to resist a little bit, and then you just stop and then let the tree relax again, and then you do a couple more turns, and then over the course of the summer you can bend the branch quite severely. Make sure it's as far out as possible so we get the most amount of pull in it. So it's nice and tight. So it just went from, well, I pulled it down about this much already. So it's quite real good. So now we get another copper wire, a little bit thinner. This is 2 millimeters, so it's still quite strong. So now what we're gonna make an extra safety loop, basically. So not on this one, but separate. So that will hold the tension in the trunk, and then we're gonna cut this one off. And then we're going to just rewind it again, and then we're gonna repeat the process till we reach the right angle, really, or until it breaks. So we don't really know, so we'll we'll find out. Hopefully we'll stop before that, of course, but you know, I just put another screw in there, so we've got something to hook this onto. So now we're going to undo this one here. So now all the tension is on this wire here. There we go. So now we can shorten that again. And now it's time for round 2. And just do the same again. I can hear slight cracking now. There's something going on there. Somewhere. Yes, I can see a big crack appearing here now. I think that's gonna take a little bit of tension off there. So it starts cracking here. So as you can see here, there's a big crack just appeared. So I'll just redid the tension a little bit, take the tension off. just over there. So that we're just gonna carve this bend here, because that's where ideally that's where I wanted to bend really, but start bending over there. So hopefully, if we're gonna just take a little bit of wood out of there, out of the top, hopefully that will make the tension go into this part instead of in this part. So we want it. So we're just gonna use a different tool now. So use that one now. So we just we can't get into that deep. So we're just gonna use some kind of just a drill type thing to get in there and then hold that out a little bit. So the branch is not, comparing if you're carving a trunk, it's not really big. It's about this thick. So what we want to just keep a little edge as big as this really. It's like 6 millimeters. We want to keep all the way around. So that's gonna be the live part of the wood. So we only want to remove the hardwood, the inner wood of the tree. So I will hollowed the top bit out there. So now we're just gonna see again and see if that one will start to bend now. Now we just reduce the wood in there, so hopefully that will. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna secure this bit. So we're gonna put a wire around here and a wire around there. So not gonna be too tight, but just gonna hopefully prevent it from breaking and tearing up here instead of where I want it to be, like there. So I want that to go that way just a little bit. Oh, try again. Well, I think I'm gonna leave it like this here. I think we did quite well. So we went from twice this size, so it's about, what's that, this much? So that's how far it came, so it was already here. So that's quite impressive area, impressive distance. So I'm gonna put this one on now, and then we can take the turnbuckle off. Now we're gonna use bark stripper, and then we're just gonna strip some bark off. So some of it is quite old. It's over here, it's just been dead for quite a long time. So that's just, it kind of dries up and kind of sticks to the wood, so that's gonna be a bit harder to take off. But so we're gonna use the bark stripper first, and if that doesn't take off, then we can always use power tools. That's what I've done over here. Looks a little bit easier, but a bit messier, but yeah, just of course, you can see here, this is the live part, so you can see the changing color. So you can cut off here, well, when it collected or something, and it just, in 4 years, just died back to there. So when the wood is fresh, when it's still alive there, it's a lot easier to take the bark off. But yeah, when you collect something, you leave stuff a little bit longer. So you never know what you're gonna use as your design. So you're gonna just have it a little bit longer, and then you can always prune it shorter. Then you can see top of my finger is the live, and bottom of my finger is dead there. So there's a branch there alive, but we cut it off. I just want to use all of that as a Deadwood feature, and then we're going to use that as a branch. And also, if we leave the bark on the deadwood, it can rot a lot quicker as well. So underneath it just can start decaying a lot quicker. As in, it's almost like a little blanket. Can trap the moisture in there, and before you know it, it's just, there's nothing left of it. Which is very natural. But if you want to, if you design a tree and you got Deadwood in mind, but it's all rotten and stuff, and you just have to cut it off, and then you got nothing. You have to just redesign your tree, really. So my advice is, when the first work you do, you just cut your branches. You're not going to get any growth on that. Take the bark off soon as you can. As soon as you've made a decision, as soon as you've made a decision where you want the tree to go, really, what kind of direction, just take the bark off first, and then the rest of the branches, that comes another time. It doesn't matter. You can do that That's the easiest part really. So the more important part is to preserve the deadwood if you really want any. Here, just try to break it up a little bit. So we don't want any flat surfaces like that, so we can see where somebody being cut it. Can see where somebody cut it before. So we want to create taper in there too. Textures. So we're gonna break this up in two, so it's a bit easier to handle. So again, when the wood is quite, if the wood is quite dead for a long time, it just becomes a bit harder and brittle, so it kind of breaks. So you have to just keep that in mind when you want to create your deadwood. Normally when the deadwood is still alive, as in here, it is a bit more flexible, so it doesn't always break, depending on species, but it normally kind of just tears a little bit. So again, we just the results will be a little bit different when you break something off, so they just will be a little bit different. So the Welsh Hawthorns, they just got naturally smaller leaves, about half the size of a normal hawthorn leaf. There are variations just a little bit bigger, but normally they're quite small, which is really nice for bonsai really. So it's got lots of age to it, lots of nice bark. As you can see here, it's just a little bit smoother, but it's just nice and craggy almost all the way through. And that's just another aspect we really want to have in bonsai. So you can have the age show in your branches, in your structure. So if you have a tree for about 20 years, you have amazing structure, amazing ramification. But if the bark is still smooth, it still looks a little bit young. So if the bark roughen up in time, it definitely helps. So I've cleaned all the deadwood up. I gave the little blowtorch just to get rid of the little fibers and stuff, as I did over here. And I'll treat it with some natural deadwood preserver. So just a bit of oil based, which just gives it a natural look in time, like a greyish color, instead of the bright white what we predominantly use on junipers and pines. So it just gives it a bit more natural kind of look. I just made a little adjustment to the pot, so now you can see the shape of the trunk. I changed the angle a little bit as well, so I just tilted it back a little bit more, because we're not, I'm not really gonna repot it. I'm just gonna take out of this beautiful plastic pot, washing up bowl, and then just put in something like that, another training pot, but a little bit better. It just looks a lot nicer in the garden. So if somebody else wants to buy it, and you just like, well, it's in a pot like this, then the price don't really reflect it, and it just doesn't look like much. So if it's in a nicer pot, it's a lot easier to sell as well. I'm not gonna put any detail on that. I'm not really a big fan of detailing. I'll just let nature do its thing. So the bark is off. I made the rough shaping of the branches. Just put some taper in these things here as well. Got one down there. I'll just shape that up a little bit more. And the rest is just nature. So now it will start cracking and working over the summer. Then if we really want to, we can add more detail to it, based on the lines which will appear in the wood. So as for this piece here, this is a straight piece, so we'll have straight cracking there. If you have a twisted branch, the cracking will be twisted, so we're not gonna put any twisted detailing onto a straight branch, because it does look a little bit unnatural. So for the rest of the design, we've got this branch over here. We're gonna put it on this side here, and then one bit lower, drop lower, and then one here in the back. And then we're gonna use that as a back branch. Then we're gonna use these long ones to drop down as well in that frame here from the trunk. On the top here, and one just coming down below a little bit, almost like a semi-cascade kind of shape, style. So we've got a long one here. That will be our second top for this piece. So we're gonna make a second top down there, and then another one there on top. So yeah, we already made a branch selection. There's basically 5-6 branches here, so it's perfect to join them all up together. But they're not all the same size. So this one is just a tiny bit bigger than that one. That one is not quite right, but we just try to get the best suitable together, really. So I think we're gonna put those two together. They're kind of the same size. That one is a bit thicker, but it will do. This one is the thickest one, so that one will go all the way to the top. And we'll go to that one, and then we got those two together as well. So start with the thickest one, so it won't be in the way of any small wires. Again, we want to keep the pressure on with our thumb on the wire so it won't move. The first coil has to be very important. That has to be nice and tight, nice and close to the branch to wire. If you've got any gaps in there, it will gonna break there because it lacks support. I'm gonna start with 2 coils around it to secure the wire on the branch. That one to wiring the second branch connecting to this one. So now we already made an anchor on the other branch. This is gonna be a lot easier to wire this one. So now we can continue wiring this branch and then finish off the other one.